Ever get that feeling like you want to really dive deep into a subject, but just don't have the time to sort through all the details?
Yeah, totally.
Well, that's what we do here on The Deep Dive.
Absolutely.
We take these huge topics and kind of boil them down to their essence so you, our listeners, can walk away feeling like experts.
Exactly right.
And today, we are going on a really unique expedition.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to explore the mind of Alexander von Humboldt, this incredible scientific figure. But we're going to see how his approach to understanding the world was actually almost like a philosopher's.
That's a really interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, and I'm excited to unpack it all with you.
Me too.
So to start, let's just paint a picture for our listeners who might not be super familiar with him.
Okay.
Humboldt, born way back in 1769, he was this globe-trotting adventurer, right?
Absolutely. He was trekking all over the world.
But what's really fascinating to me is that he wasn't just collecting facts and specimens. He was really trying to piece together this grand, interconnected view of the cosmos.
Yeah, and he was so influential. His fame was huge in his own time.
I mean, think about it. We still see his name everywhere.
Oh, totally. From mountains and rivers to...
Even a penguin.
That's right, the Humboldt penguin.
That is.
His legacy is massive.
Okay, so let's get into this idea of him acting like a philosopher through his science.
Right.
He wasn't working in a vacuum, right?
Definitely not, no.
I mean, he was surrounded by some of the greatest minds of his era.
Oh, for sure.
Goethe, Schiller, Schelling.
Incredible thinkers, everyone.
How did these connections shape his philosophical leanings?
Oh, they were crucial. His intellectual environment really fostered what we now call Humboldtian science.
Humboldtian science.
Yeah, and this wasn't just about observation and experimentation like we might think of science today.
Right, it was more than that.
Exactly. It was this holistic approach that deliberately tried to connect scientific understanding with aesthetic appreciation.
Almost like a scientific counterpart to the romantic ideal of unifying art and knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way to put it.
So for Humboldt, it wasn't just about, discovering new species or charting new lands.
Yeah.
There was this deeper philosophical quest at play.
Absolutely.
We're not just looking at his findings, but at his fundamental way of thinking about nature.
His whole worldview.
And he stood at this really fascinating point in history, right? Where the rationalism of the Enlightenment was giving way to the more emotionally resonant perspectives of Romanticism.
Very true. A time of great intellectual ferment.
So how did he bridge that gap?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah,
And it's what makes this deep dive so compelling.
I agree.
So our mission today is to understand Humboldt's philosophical leanings
All right, all right.
by examining how he viewed the interconnectedness of nature and culture,
Cool.
what he meant by his method of thinking observation,
Right.
and the significant role he believed art played in truly grasping the essence of the natural world.
It's like he was doing science, but he was also articulating this whole philosophy of nature through his work.
Exactly, and that's what we're going to try to unpack.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's start with this idea that for Humboldt, science and art weren't separate domains, but deeply interwoven.
Right.
Why did he believe this?
Well, for Humboldt, the separation of science and art was artificial and ultimately limiting.
Okay.
He really believed that our emotional responses, our feelings, they're not just secondary to understanding.
Right.
They're integral to it.
Mm.
And art, in its various forms, provides us with these crucial tools,
Okay.
like imagination and emotional resonance,
Yeah.
that can actually expand our empirical knowledge, allow us to perceive and understand aspects of nature that a purely objective, detached approach might miss.
So he saw a danger in this increasing trend toward what he might have viewed as a cold, fragmented way of looking at the world.
Oh, absolutely. He was very critical of that tendency to compartmentalize knowledge.
Right, yeah.
He even argued that to truly understand the history of science, you couldn't divorce it from the history of art.
Interesting.
They develop in tandem, influencing each other.
Right.
He saw them as complementary ways of engaging with reality.
What's interesting here is that while he was obviously a meticulous observer,
Oh, yeah.
he also seemed to push back against this emerging ideal of complete scientific objectivity.
That's a great point. He emphasized the role and responsibility of the observer.
Right.
He believed that we're always situated within the world we're studying.
Right.
We're not these detached entities.
Yeah.
Our perspectives and even our feelings inevitably shape how we perceive and interpret nature.
Right.
This is a very different stance than the purely objective, value-neutral ideal that was gaining traction in science at the time.
And this is where his close relationships with Goethe and Schiller become really illuminating.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, these weren't just casual friendships.
Right.
These were deep intellectual partnerships.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's take Goethe, for instance, with his work on morphology,
Oh,
the study of forms.
right.
How did that influence Humboldt's philosophical approach?
Their connection was really profound. They engaged in collaborative scientific investigations, for example, on the irritability of muscles and nerves. And more broadly, Humboldt adopted Goethe's concept of the type, this underlying ideal form that manifests in various ways in the natural world.
Okay.
This allowed Humboldt to see connections between different species and understand the underlying unity within diversity.
Interesting.
He even dedicated his work on the geography of plants to Goethe,
Wow.
a powerful symbol of their intellectual kinship.
Yeah.
And thinking philosophically, this idea of underlying unity was central to both of their worldviews.
Right. It's this idea that there are these fundamental patterns that connect everything.
Exactly.
And with Schiller, even though Humboldt's views on certain specific concepts like life force evolved, their early exchanges clearly left a mark.
They did, and the fact that Humboldt later republished their correspondence shows how much he valued that intellectual sparring.
Right. Like he was constantly refining his ideas through dialogue and debate.
Exactly, and if we connect this to a broader philosophical understanding, Humboldt really resonated with Schiller's emphasis on the higher pursuits of humanity.
What do you mean by higher?
Those that go beyond mere factual accumulation.
Okay.
Schiller believed in the cultivation of aesthetic sense and education as essential for human flourishing, and Humboldt saw a crucial role for art in this process,
Interesting.
particularly in how we relate to and understand nature.
Which brings us to this key concept from Humboldt's Cosmos,
Okay.
truth to nature, or Nature Wahrheit.
Right.
He saw art as having this incredible capacity to present the natural world in a way that feels living, imbued with aesthetic feeling.
Yeah, he really believed art could capture the essence of nature in a way that science alone couldn't.
Can you give us an example of what he meant by this?
Sure. Humboldt admired Kalidasa's The Messenger of Clouds.
Okay.
It's this beautiful Sanskrit poem that evokes the beauty and emotional significance of the monsoon rains.
I'm not familiar with that one.
For Humboldt, this poem achieved truth to nature, not through dry description, but through conveying this deep felt connection to the natural world.
Right.
He contrasted this with the more ornate and self-referential style of someone like Buffon, where the focus seemed to be more on the cleverness of the writing than on the genuine portrayal of nature.
Okay, so it's about authenticity of feeling.
Exactly. And Humboldt championed authors like Rousseau, Bernardin de Saint-Pierre, and Chateaubriand,
Right.
who through their individualized and truthful depictions managed to convey this essential truth to nature.
So if we're thinking about Humboldt as a philosopher of nature,
Right.
this suggests that for him, truly understanding nature wasn't just a cognitive exercise.
Right.
It involved an emotional and even an aesthetic engagement.
For sure, he believed that we need to engage all of our faculties to truly comprehend the natural world.
Now let's move on to this idea of nature and culture as deeply intertwined.
Okay.
This feels incredibly relevant to contemporary discussions about the environment.
Oh, absolutely. It's more relevant than ever.
So Humboldt fundamentally rejected the artificial separation of nature and culture.
He viewed it as this false dichotomy that had harmful consequences,
Okay.
and his firsthand experiences in South America were transformative in this regard.
Right. He wasn't just an armchair philosopher.
Well, he was out there experiencing the world firsthand.
Exactly. And what did he see?
He witnessed the direct and devastating impact of European colonial practices,
Right.
not only on the land itself, but also on the indigenous populations who lived in those environments.
So for Humboldt, the deforestation of a landscape wasn't just an ecological event.
Exactly.
It had profound cultural repercussions for the people whose lives and traditions were connected to that environment.
Yeah, it was a loss of knowledge, a disruption of ways of life.
And his critique extended to the very nature of imperialism.
It did.
The way colonial powers often carelessly and violently disrupted the lives and homelands of these communities.
Yeah, he saw that as intrinsically linked to his strong condemnation of slavery.
Right, which he famously called the greatest of all evils. And while some scholars point out that his primary focus wasn't on theories of race,
Right.
his philosophical commitment to human dignity and his observations of the interconnectedness of all things led him to these strong moral positions.
Absolutely.
This paints a picture of someone whose scientific observations led him to profound ethical and even philosophical conclusions about the relationship between humanity and the natural world.
I agree. It's really remarkable.
Okay, now let's delve into his unique methodology,
Okay.
this thinking observation.
Thinking observation.
What exactly did that involve?
Well, it was Humboldt's way of distinguishing his approach from what he saw as the limitations of both purely raw empiricism,
Okay.
simply collecting data without any guiding interpretation,
Right.
and purely rational science that sought to deduce the workings of nature from abstract principles alone.
So he was trying to find a middle ground.
Exact.
Okay, so what did this thinking observation look like in practice?
For Humboldt, it involved a meaningful ordering of appearances, a way of observing the world with this deep sense of the inherent interconnectedness and underlying order within nature,
Right.
what he called an ancient internal necessity.
So it wasn't just about passively recording what he saw.
No.
There was an active process of interpretation, of looking for deeper meaning and connections.
Absolutely. He believed we needed to engage our minds as well as our senses.
Now, he had some initial interest in Schelling's nature philosophy, right?
He did.
This idea of nature as this dynamic, creative force.
Right.
How did that fit into his thinking observation?
He found Schelling's ideas initially stimulating.
Okay.
He saw them as this vital counterpoint to a purely mechanistic view of nature and as potentially revolutionary for the empirical sciences.
Okay.
However, he ultimately diverged from the more purely speculative aspects of nature philosophy.
Right.
He wasn't trying to construct a theory of nature a priori from first principles.
Right.
He famously quipped that speculative philosophy of nature was like a chemistry in which one cannot wet his hands, emphasizing his commitment to empirical engagement with the world.
But at the same time, as you said, he felt that just collecting data wasn't enough.
Right.
Pure empiricism, in his view, lacked that crucial element of insight,
It did.
the ability to discern the deeper patterns.
Yeah.
So thinking observation was this middle ground.
Precisely. And here's where the profound influence of Goethe's views of nature becomes apparent.
Okay, so Goethe was a big influence.
Huge Humboldt credited Goethe with fundamentally transforming his own approach,
Wow.
granting him, as he put it, new organs of perception.
New organs of perception.
Yeah, and this is closely linked to Goethe's concept of gentle empiricism,
Okay.
a way of engaging with natural phenomena that seeks to understand the inherent nature through careful observation and intuitive insight, without forcing them into preconceived categories.
Okay.
It's a more receptive, less dominating way of knowing.
And Goethe's concept of metamorphosis,
Yes.
this idea of an underlying unity expressed through the transformation of forms, that was also a key element in Humboldt's way of thinking observation.
Absolutely. Humboldt saw Goethe's work on metamorphosis as providing the solution to the problem of metamorphosis in nature.
Okay.
How to reconcile the seemingly endless diversity of life with an underlying unity of fundamental forms or types.
So it's about finding the connections, the patterns beneath the surface.
Exactly. And this idea of interconnectedness and underlying patterns was central to Humboldt's philosophical approach to science.
And Humboldt extended this idea of form beyond individual organisms
Yeah.
to the entire landscape with his concept of the physiognomy of nature.
That's right. He took it to a whole other level.
That sounds fascinating. Can you elaborate on what he meant by that?
Sure, think of it as reading the face of the earth.
Oh.
Just as we might try to understand someone's character through their facial features and expressions,
Right.
Humboldt believed that we could discern the character of a landscape by carefully observing the forms and patterns of its plant and animal life, its geology, its climate.
Okay.
The physiognomist of plants, for example, would focus on the most characteristic aspects of a plant,
Okay.
its height, leaf shape, growth habits,
Right.
to identify recurring fundamental forms across different regions.
So he was looking for those underlying patterns again.
Exactly. By studying these Urformen, these basic archetypal forms,
Right.
Humboldt argued that we could develop a comprehensive physiognomy of nature,
Okay.
gaining an intuitive understanding of the interconnectedness of organisms and their environment within a particular landscape.
So it's about seeing the holistic character of a place,
Exactly.
the forest, as well as the individual trees.
Yeah, and understanding how they relate.
So this thinking observation, deeply informed by Goethe's ideas,
Right.
allowed Humboldt to move beyond simply cataloging nature
Right.
to understanding its deeper interconnected patterns.
Yeah, and that led to some really groundbreaking insights.
For example, his ecological observations.
Right.
He's often considered a precursor to the fields of ecology, isn't he?
He is, while Ernst Haeckel later coined the term ecology. Humboldt's way of thinking about nature as an interconnected web of life.
Right.
A household, oikos, where living beings mutually influence and depend on each other was foundational.
And his research at Lake Valencia in Venezuela is a classic illustration of this.
Oh, absolutely. It's a textbook example.
He meticulously documented how deforestation by European colonists had drastically altered the local climate and soil,
Right.
leading to desertification in a once fertile area.
Yeah, it was a powerful demonstration of the interconnectedness of living organisms and their environment.
Right, a core principle of ecological thinking. This was a really radical idea for the time, wasn't it?
It was revolutionary.
The understanding that living things don't just adapt to their environment,
Right.
they actively shape it,
Exactly.
and that human actions can have profound and far-reaching ecological consequences.
He was really ahead of his time in that regard.
While earlier thinkers recognized the influence of environment on life,
Right.
Humboldt was among the first to truly grasp this reciprocal relationship.
Yeah, this mutual influence.
He saw that forests weren't just passive recipients of climate.
Right.
They played an active role in maintaining soil health and regulating rainfall.
Exactly.
And his insight that the destruction of forests could lead to the drying up of springs and the increase of floods had a profound impact on the development of environmental consciousness and policy in many parts of the world.
It's amazing how influential his ideas were.
This holistic, interconnected view of nature really seems to be at the heart of Humboldt's philosophical approach to science.
I agree. It's a unifying thread throughout his work.
And it all seems to culminate in his concept of the Naturgemälde,
Okay.
these nature paintings.
Nature paintings.
What exactly were these, and how did they embody his philosophical principles?
The Naturgemälde was a term Humboldt used to describe works,
Okay.
including his own essays in Ansichten der Natur,
Right.
that aimed to achieve this truth to nature we discussed earlier.
Hmm.
He even used it to translate the French word tableau,
Okay.
referring to both a vivid description in text and a visual representation. His famous cross-sectional illustration of Chimborazo, the Tableau Physique, is a prime example.
Oh,
It visually integrated this vast array of data:
okay.
altitude, temperature, plant distribution, animal life,
Wow.
all on one image, highlighting their interconnectedness.
Right.
And the accompanying text further elaborated on these relationships, weaving together scientific observation with aesthetic appreciation.
So these Naturgemälde weren't just objective scientific reports.
No, not at all.
They were a deliberate fusion of different ways of knowing and representing the world.
Exact.
Personal experience, rigorous scientific data, evocative literary descriptions, and underlying philosophical reflections.
It was all there interwoven together.
Humboldt aimed to engage both the reader's intellect and their imagination simultaneously,
He did.
to foster not just a cognitive understanding, but also this visceral emotional connection to the interconnectedness of nature.
Yeah, he wanted people to feel it in their gut, not just understand it in their heads.
Consider the opening of his essay concerning the steppes and deserts. He doesn't begin with a list of plant species or climate statistics.
No.
Instead, he immediately immerses you, the reader, in the landscape,
Right. Yeah.
placing you at the foot of a granite mountain, allowing you to experience the environment sensorially,
You're right there with him.
right? It's a very powerful and immersive way of writing.
It is.
You're not just reading about a steppe.
Right.
You're almost feeling the heat, sensing the vastness.
Exactly. He transports you there.
And it's not just descriptive for its own sake.
No.
He masterfully interweaves these vivid sensory experiences with precise scientific observations.
He does.
Atmospheric pressure readings the specific behaviors of animals in response to changing conditions.
Right.
He even describes a personal feeling of constriction in the hour before an electrical storm,
Interesting.
connecting our own embodied experience to these larger natural phenomena.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
This is a perfect example of how he saw science and subjective experience as intertwined pathways to understanding.
Exactly. They're not separate. They inform each other.
So the Naturgemälde was, in essence, Humboldt's way of putting his philosophical approach into practice,
It was.
demonstrating how art and science could collaborate to provide this richer, more holistic comprehension of the world around us.
I agree. It was a true synthesis.
And this approach, this emphasis on interconnectedness and thinking observation, had a profound and a lasting impact,
It did.
shaping how we think about and study the natural world even today.
His influence is still felt.
Absolutely, we've already touched on Darwin.
Right.
But his influence really permeated scientific and intellectual thought for generations, didn't it?
It did. Humboldtian science inspired this whole wave of researchers who embarked on their own global explorations,
Wow.
contributing immensely to fields like botany and geography.
Right.
And his emphasis on interconnectedness was this crucial precursor to the development of modern ecology.
Absolutely. And his writings even played a role in the emergence of the national parks movement in the United States and Great Britain,
They did.
influencing the very way we think about conservation.
It's incredible to think about the reach of his ideas.
And his ideas resonated deeply with philosophical movements like Transcendentalism,
They did.
shaping the thinking of figures like Emerson and Thoreau.
Yeah, he had this huge ripple effect across disciplines.
And it wasn't just confined to the natural sciences and environmentalism.
Right.
His work also had significant social and political implications,
It did.
influencing ideas of national identity in Latin America, and even inspiring figures like Simón Bolívar.
Yeah, he was a true polymath.
He was a vocal critic of slavery and colonialism,
He was.
not as separate issues,
Right.
but as interconnected manifestations of this flawed worldview that disregarded the inherent dignity of both people and nature.
Exactly. He saw the connections between these seemingly disparate issues.
His understanding of the deep ties between nature and culture led him to passionately condemn the destructive impacts of European expansion.
He was a powerful voice for justice and for the natural world.
A truly remarkable figure, operating as much as a philosopher as a scientist.
I agree, he was a true visionary.
So to recap, Humboldt's philosophical approach was characterized by this deeply holistic view of nature,
Right.
the deliberate and essential integration of art and science in the pursuit of knowledge,
Absolutely.
a methodology of thinking observation that combined empirical rigor with interpretive insight
Yeah.
and profound ecological understandings.
He was way ahead of his time in so many ways.
And at the heart of it all was this unwavering belief in the fundamental interconnectedness of nature and culture.
That's right. It's the key understanding his work.
Precisely, he left us with this legacy of seeing the world not as this collection of isolated parts,
Right.
but as this vibrant, dynamic, and interconnected whole.
A beautiful way to put it.
And that brings us to our final thought for you, our listener.
Okay.
Reflect on Humboldt's profound emphasis on the interconnectedness of all things and the crucial role of both careful observation and deeply felt experience in truly understanding the world.
Right.
In our complex modern era, as we grapple with unprecedented environmental and social challenges,
Yeah.
what might it mean to adopt a similar lens?
That's a great question.
What if we approached understanding not just through the lens of data and abstract analysis,
Right.
but also through cultivating this kind of aesthetic sensibility towards the world around us? Humboldt saw the world as both this intricate scientific puzzle and this breathtaking work of art.
He did.
How might embracing a similar perspective enrich your understanding of the world and your own place within its magnificent tapestry?
It's something worth pondering for sure.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.